Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. I wanted to bring you one more face mask tutorial. Cricut put a new face mask pattern in Cricut Design Space. So if you have a Cricut Maker, you're going to be able to cut this out. If you don't have a Cricut Maker, you have a Cricut Explorer, you can cut this out in cardstock and use that as a pattern to cut your fabric. If you have the Maker, it'll cut it out for you. This is a pretty neat mask. I think that they have designed. It does have the pocket for the filter, and instead of going over the ears, it has two pieces of elastic that go, one goes over the top of your head and one behind. So it's much more comfortable than having that elastic around your ears. So if you have a Cricut, again, this is a Cricut Design Space pattern. For those who don't have any kind of Cricut, unfortunately, I can't share this pattern. It's not mine to share, but I think if you do a search, you will find something very similar for those of you who are cutting this by hand. So let's get started, and I'll walk you right through how to make this version of the mask. So this video tutorial is to walk you through how to make these face masks that Cricut has provided for you as part of Cricut Design Space. And they have put 4 different sizes in here. We're going to be making the small, medium, adult face mask. This is the one that fits my face. If you want to use that for a gauge, I made one for Doug, and his is the large adult face mask. But we're going to walk through this one. But they're all made exactly the same. If you can't find these, just go to your Cricut website or your Cricut software, Design Space, click Home. Once you click Home, they're right here. If you don't see them on this ribbon, which I have a feeling they're going to be up here on this ribbon for a while, but if you don't, just click View All and search face mask, and they should be, again, they're probably going to be at the top of the ribbon for a while. So we're going to make this one, so we're just going to click it, and we're just going to click Make It. The first 2 are going to be your lining. The next one is your outer and your outer. These do ask for the Cricut fabric marker. I chose not to use the fabric marker. Sometimes when I use the fabric marker on lighter fabrics, it shows through, and I just didn't want to run that risk. But you're absolutely encouraged to use the fabric marker if you want to. And so we're just going to go ahead and cut these out. I'm using a 100% cotton fabric. The CDC recommends that you use a tightly woven cotton, and I'm just using some quilting cotton. And I'm using the same thing for both the outer and the lining. Now this face mask does have a pocket so that you can add a filter or even an N95 mask if you can get that to fit in there. So this does have the pocket, and this does have elastic. However, the elastic for this project does not go over the ears, and I'm going to walk you through the entire project. So go ahead and cut out your pieces and meet me back here and we'll get started. So we're going to be making the adult small dash medium size face mask. Once you cut out all of your pieces, you're going to notice you have 2 smaller pieces. Those are your lining pieces, and you have 2 larger pieces. If you want to use the Cricut fabric marker, make sure that you're putting your fabric on the mat pretty side down, and then it will draw the margins for you, or your seam allowances for you. I didn't choose to do that. I kind of don't like the fact that the marker shows through a lot of lighter fabric, so I don't use it very often. So the first thing you need to do, the smaller pieces are going to be the lining of the mask. The larger pieces are going to be the outer piece of the mask. So you're going to line these pieces up pretty sides together with their match. So put the 2 outer pieces together, the 2 lining pieces together, and line those up. And you can throw a couple of pins in there, but you want to line up those rounded edges. Same thing on your lining pieces. You're going to put them pretty sides together. Once you have your pieces lined up pretty sides together, you're going to take it over the sewing machine, and you're going to sew along this curve, and you're going to sew along this curve with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you used the Cricut fabric pen to draw, it'll have a line right there on your seam allowance. The next thing you're going to do is take both of your straight edges right here, and again, if you drew it with the fabric marker, it's going to have a line right there, but you're going to fold that back a 1/4 inch on both the front and the back and give it a nice press. Do the same on the lining. You're going to fold this back, this straight edge, a 1/4 inch, press it, fold the back side back a 1/4 inch and press it. Once you have that done, take each piece over to the sewing machine and just stitch as close to that edge as you can, just to tack that down. Make sure you don't sew those together. So you're just going to lift this up, sew that one down, flip it over, sew that one down, and that one down. So I've sewn the straight edges down. So if I put it back together, it looks like this. You might want to give it a press, set those seams so that everything stays nice. Now you're going to go along this curved edge and you're just going to cut some notches in here. And that's just going to help this fabric, give the fabric somewhere to go when we turn it over, because this is creating a sort of a cup in the mask. That's why we're sewing on the curve. So you just want to put some snips in there. I'm just cutting little V's. If you have pinking shears, you can definitely use those. Not everybody has them, so I thought I would just do it with scissors. So take it back over to your ironing surface and give it a nice press again once you've got your curves clipped. And then we're going to turn it right side out, just like this, on both pieces. And then take it back over to the ironing surface and press that seam allowance to one side or the other. It doesn't matter which side, but you're going to press them all going the same direction. Once you have your seam allowance pressed to one side, you can see mine's pressed to the left, you're going to take it back over to the sewing machine, place it under your presser foot like this, and your presser foot will be right here, and you're going to just stitch down the side of that seam allowance just to tack it down into place. It's going to be a nice top stitch. I already did this one, and you can see I have a line of stitching right down the center on this side, and that's just holding that seam allowance down to the side. So we've got both our lining and our outer piece. The seam allowance is now stitched down. So now what we're going to do is take the outer piece pretty side up, take the lining piece pretty side down, and we're going to match up those center points and clip this into place. If you don't have clips, use pins, whatever works for you. And then you're going to do the same on the bottom. All right, so now you're going to take it over to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch from here all the way up to the top and stop right there. Same on this side, from here all the way through the bottom, tacking down this side. So basically you're just sewing these together just on the top and the bottom, leaving the sides open. So we have that done. Now what we're going to do is reach inside one of these sides and turn this right side out. So now take it over to your ironing surface and you're going to give it a nice press. Make sure that these seams are rolled out, that fabric's not bunched up in there. Helps to use a bone folder or whatever you have. And when you're lining this up, make sure that this raw edge right here on the outer piece that's sticking out is folded down. So it should look like that on the ends. This is folded, this tab's folded down. It'll be the same on this end, the same on this end. Make sure that you get this point nice and lined up. So give your seams a nice press, and again, make sure that the raw edges on these short edges are folded in. Once you have it nice and pressed, it should be looking something like this. See, my edges are folded down. Now you want to take it over to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch from this edge all the way up and over across the top back to this edge. And then you're going to do the same on the bottom. Start here, so all the way across, and stop here. So that you're sewing right over those folded edges and you're sewing the top and the bottom, leaving the sides open. This is where your filter is going to be put in. So now I've top stitched along the top and the bottom. The next thing we're going to do is take the edges that are sticking out and you're going to fold it in and it should come right up to that opening of the lining without going over. If it is going over, just slip it back a little bit. Then you're going to take it over to the sewing machine. I would give it a nice press. That'll help hold it down. Then take it over to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch as close to the edge of the fabric as you can without touching the lining. So even if you want to pull this lining back as you sew a little bit, just go as close as you can get to the edge. This is going to create the casing for our elastic. So on both sides, you're just going to fold that edge in and sew as close to the edge as you can, right down there, creating two casings on the edge. All right, so I've completed the casing. We have the opening here for the filter to flip in, and I'm using 1/8 inch elastic because it's what I have on hand. You want to use 1/8 or 1/4 inch. You're not going to have much more room than that in your channel. So I'm going to take my safety pin, and I'm making the adult small medium, so I have 22 inches of elastic. I'm sorry, 20 inches of elastic for the adult small medium. If you're making one of the other sizes, I'll put the length of the elastic in the description below the video. So I'm just going to start threading my elastic through. I just hooked it to a safety pin. I'm going to thread it through one side, leave that tail out, try not to twist it, and stick it through the other side. And this time we're going down the channel. Okay, once you have that done, you can go ahead and take your safety pin off, and you're just going to grab both pieces of elastic of your free ends and just tie those in a small knot. If you're using the 1/4 inch, you could probably take it over to the sewing machine and zigzag stitch the two together. This is pretty thin, so I'm going to rely on a square knot. Cut off my tails, and then you're just going to thread the elastic around so that the knot goes up in the channel. Whoops. And that's it. There's your face mask. So this goes over the head. I'll put it on here. Okay guys, so this is the face mask, and it goes on over the head like this. You can put it around your neck if that makes it easier. So you're going to put the face mask on, and then this elastic, the top one, goes up here, and the bottom one's down here. So it's a lot more comfortable than having the elastic behind your ears. Your ears are open. Goes down under my chin. It's up here. If I had glasses on, do I have my glasses here? It's under my glasses. It's a nice fit. It's nice and contoured here, so there's not a gap here. There's not too big of a gap at all right here. And it's pretty secure under here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I know a lot of people have been asking for it ever since Cricut put the pattern in Design Space for us. Thank you, Cricut. That was an amazing thing to do. And again, you guys, it's in several different sizes. The only difference, they're all made exactly the same, but the difference is how long this piece of elastic is for the various sizes. And don't forget, there's your pocket here so that you can put a filter in here or another mask or whatever you want. Please visit the CDC website for exactly what this mask can and can't do. These are a last resort that they're asking for to kind of help the supply of the N95 and N99 masks to go a little bit further for the people who need them. And those who don't necessarily need those masks have this, or they have another way to protect themselves or provide some more barrier. So again, this is the face mask that's in Cricut Design Space. It is a Cricut Access design, And it should be on that main ribbon for a while, I would imagine. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and thanks Cricut for giving us a design space file that we can use to do our part in helping out through this trying time. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys.